And that's the end of our grim tale. But before we go, I want to know what kept you up at night. Was it the stench, the endless hunger, or the thought of being thrown overboard? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you liked this story, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss any more tales. Now, let's get back to the misery. One day, a change, a landmass rises on the horizon. Hope flickers. Maybe there's fresh fruit, water, or better yet, another ship to plunder. Pirates have a motto: loot and kill. When they reach port, it's pure chaos. What doesn't get destroyed during battle finds its match on land. Shops are ransacked, homes overturned. Whatever isn't nailed down disappears. Everyone suffers, and everyone is afraid. The pirate captain holds court, announcing his spoils and issuing rations. You eat what he allows, when he allows. Usually, it's meager, but you dare not ask for more. Nights are worse. No escape from snoring pirates, drunken brawls, or the whispers of those who met the dreaded Captain Kidd. Rumors spread. Maybe taverns are safer, or perhaps the priest offers sanctuary. By now, your belly growls constantly, but fear keeps you still. Trust no one. The pirate world is built on deceit. One of your fellow captives, a hardened veteran, warns you not to drink the grog. He claims some pirates slip sleeping drafts into the rum, nabbing unsuspecting captives and selling them to the highest bidder. Others claim it's laced with poison, turning captured officers into lifeless dolls, perfect for bargaining. Even friendships seem treacherous. You notice wary glances and quiet conversations, wondering if someone's calculating how many men it'll take to throw you into the ocean. In the darkness, you shrink, clinging to whatever shreds of hope remain. Then the unthinkable happens. An innocent sailor falls victim to the sleeping draft, or maybe he drank too much. Either way, in the morning, he's gone. Fear tightens its grip around your throat. Who will be next? Will it be you? The pirate's creed is simple. Look out for yourself. Soon, that sleeping draft becomes your nightmare, lurking in every bottle, poisoning every laugh. Sleep seems a luxury, but a risk you can't afford. You keep your eyes open, watching, waiting. Fatigue pulls at you, but you fight it. Years pass and wrinkles etch themselves onto your face. Saltwater stains on your rags. You've heard tales of pirates dying of scurvy, their gums bleeding, their skin rotting. You check yours daily. At first, only slight redness, but it spreads. Pirate medicine is a myth. They offer little beyond vinegar and seawater gargles, concoctions that sting and do little to help. The one constant is hope for rescue, a rescue that seems increasingly unlikely. On rare days, a merchant ship anchors offshore. Maybe this is your chance, but the pirate captain flags them down, negotiates, and soon enough, they sail away with full holds and lighter crews. Each time this happens, despair tightens its hold on you. It feels like fate's playing a cruel game, taunting you with glimpses of freedom, only to snatch them away. And as the weeks turn into months, you start to lose hope. Piracy's not an adventure, it's survival. The romance of the high seas turns into a desperate fight for each sunrise. No one knows this better than you. Your body bears the scars of battles, hunger, and the elements. Every cut and bruise tells a story of struggle. Yet strangely, it's also a badge of honor. Your spirit, though bruised, hasn't broken. You've seen horrors no one should witness, but you endure. You've watched others crack under the relentless pressure, begging for a life that pirates no longer offered. Imagine the scene, a crowded prison below a sweltering deck, the stench of stale waste mingling with the tang of salt spray. Above, the sun beats down mercilessly. Hope, once your lifeline, is now a flickering candle in the wind. Rescue seems a distant memory. One by one, your fellow captives succumb to the harsh realities of pirate life. Some vanish into the mists of sickness, others disappear overboard in the dead of night. The strongest break under the relentless pressure, their spirits long since shattered, and yet you persist. Time blurs into a relentless cycle of sun and sea. Storms buffet the ship, testing its timbers and your resolve. But you endure. Battles rage, the thunder of cannons echoing across the waves. You watch, haunted by memories of when you two were eager for plunder. But now your heart yearns only for peace. Injuries pile up, reminders of a forgotten past. Cuts fester, bones ache, and scurvy claws at your flesh. The pirates' rough remedies bring little relief. Days stretch into weeks, weeks into months, and you find yourself changed, hardened, defined by the endless struggle for survival. The parrot on your shoulder is a ghost of laughter past. The thought of dazzling treasure is replaced by the bitter taste of survival. You are a pirate now, forever marked by the misery of the open sea. And when you finally step off that ship, it's not with the swagger of adventure, but the shuffle of one who has seen the depths of despair. So you've decided to become an outlaw on the high seas. Maybe you've just left the Navy, bringing with you salty air, hardtack, and a taste for adventure. Or maybe you were born to it, a landlubber who still can't untell a port from a starboard, but knows a good brawl when he sees one. Whatever brings you to this decision, you should know the truth about life on the open water. You will never go home again. I know it sounds romantic, sailing free among the waves with the wind in your hair and untold riches at your fingertips. But what you truly miss isn't family or home. It's the little things. It's the grass beneath your feet, the sound of church bells, the taste of fresh bread. Even walking in a straight line feels like luxury after weeks of stumbling across rolling decks. Privacy is non-existent. You sleep shoulder to shoulder in the same fetid air, surrounded by snoring, muttering men. The stench is indescribable. There's rotting food, wet dogs, sewage, sweat. If hell has a smell, it was probably borrowed from a pirate ship. Soon enough, nicknames find you. Everyone earns one, usually from humiliation. Imagine waking up one morning to find yourself christened Stinky. It doesn't matter that you were aiming for Barbarossa. That's life on a pirate ship. For some, the lure of easy riches is worth it. Others dream of pillaging, plundering, and burning. But every man there has crossed the line into lawlessness. And when you live among those without rules, order, or God, the only constant is chaos. Mealtimes are ordeals. Salted meat, more bone than flesh. Hard biscuits crawling with weevils. Pickled scraps tasting of rot. A pirate's life for you. Rum flows endlessly, not as celebration, but as coping mechanism. Fresh water is rare, rusted and rationed. Hygiene, forget it. Clothes never dry. Skin itches with infestations. And bathing means fighting half the crew under a rainstorm. Oddly, despite the filth, pirates enforced strict rationing. Food theft could mean death, as could wasting water. Loot brought aboard had to be registered before redistribution. Rum, however, flowed freely, mixed with water in a giant communal bowl. When the bowl was empty, rum rations ceased. The pirate captain might have been a terror on the waves, but back on the ship, he was answerable to the crew. Loot had to be registered before redistribution, and disobedience meant leaving the ship without your head. Captains kept their pistols close at hand, but mutiny was always a risk. The crew lived in a perpetual state of nervous energy, ready to bolt at the first sign of trouble. Pirates knew the value of a healthy crew, so while punishments varied, floggings and marooning were common. Marooning, the cruel act of leaving a man stranded with a pistol and one bullet, was common for serious offenders. A black spot on your back meant only one thing: you were marked for death. It was better to walk the plank than face the alternative. Life on a pirate ship was survival of the fittest, a test of endurance and nerve. You may have signed on as a pirate for the thrill, the riches, or the promise of a simpler life, but now the adventure's begun. You're faced with the realities of existence on the open ocean, cut off from everything familiar. The romanticized image of the swashbuckling pirate fades, leaving only the stark truth. This isn't indulgence. It's survival, enforced by fear and desperation. Here's to hoping you last longer than the 1 in 3 men who perished on the high seas. Now stay tuned for the next installment in this series, where we explore the surprising medical knowledge of pirates. Until then, remember, some legends are best left undiscovered. Thanks for watching. Welcome aboard. Let me guess, you've always dreamed of becoming a fearsome pirate. pillaging on the riches of the Chinese, right? Think again. Being pressed into service by an aggressive boarding party isn't quite the adventure you expected, and worse things await you. First off, the ship stinks. Crews live in filth, but the stink of decay clings to the very planks of the ship. Imagine layers of stale waste coating everything, food scraps falling from above, and a sea that loves to contribute its own bouquet of horrors. Forget air fresheners, you'll need holy water and maybe a nose clip. And then there's work. Chores never end. You scrape and scrub, patch sails in the wind and bail out the bilge, the ship's lowest, foulest chamber, where every liquid horror collects. Hours are spent knee-deep in filth, scooping muck that smells like despair itself. Yet strangely, amid this chaos, order exists. Captain's command, quartermaster's judge, and every crewman plays a part. Time slips away, days blending into nights, stars counted like prison bars. Loneliness seeps into your bones. Some men talk to the sea, some believe it listens. Now you're starting to think about escape. Did pirates embrace freedom, or did they suffer imprisonment of a different sort? To the unwilling recruit, it feels like a cage, wide as the horizon. And the worst thing, you begin to dream of boredom itself. A single quiet day ashore would feel like paradise. This life is a paradox. Pirates were outlaws, yes, but their world was strictly regimented. Loot had to be registered before redistribution. Meals eaten in silence, and only the captain could open a bottle of rum without getting a splinter in his ass. And punishment for small infractions included floggings, fines, or being marooned. Left behind on some god-forsaken island, with nothing but a pistol and a half-empty canteen of water. But enough of the existential crisis. What does survival look like? First, you have to get through the attack. If your ship is captured, you may be thrown into the brig, joining other captives below deck. Conditions are cramped and dark with little air and less hope. Sometimes the stench is so bad, you'll wish the ship would sink. Others sleep fitfully, haunted by nightmares of sharks. You stay awake longer than you care to admit, listening to whispers that seem to slither through the shadows. The next test comes when the captain decides how to deal with the prisoners. Some are forced to walk the plank, some are tossed into the sea. If you're kept below deck, tensions rise until one of the prisoners lashes out. Fights erupt, claims are made, accusations are hurled. Was anyone else ever attacked by a shark while in the service of the crown? How much gold is left in the bottom of the sea because of a treacherous first mate? Each man has a story, and many a swashbuckling yarn will be spun. But soon fists fly and blood spills, staining the darkness a deeper shade. A single misstep and you join the growing pile of bodies below decks. If you survive the voyage to port, your ordeal is far from over. Pirates prided themselves on living fast and loose. Gambling, brawling, and winching were favorite pastimes, often conducted in taverns where fights swiftly become violent. Once the bar closes, the streets offer little respite. Robbery and murder are common, as are diseases you'd do just about anything to avoid. Smallpox alone kills more than sword fights, hangings, and battle. Even the threat of the gallows doesn't slow pirates down. Your greatest nightmare, scurvy. You know the drill. Teeth ache, gums bleed, wounds won't heal. Then the fever hits and leaves you bedridden, shivering, and delirious. The best case scenario, you die quickly. The worst, you linger for weeks, enduring treatments that sound straight out of hell. Bloodletting, anyone. Your fellow crewmen don't care. They've got another tavern to rob or a merchant ship to plunder. You find yourself alone, hiding in the shadows, waiting for death to claim you. This whole pirate thing isn't all it's cracked up to be, is it? Let's rewind a bit. Why not stay on that nice, fragrant, spacious merchant ship instead? You'll probably still get scurvy, but at least there won't be blood and guts everywhere. And let's face it, who wants to walk the plank anyway? Not me. A good night's rest awaits you. After you subscribe, of course. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this scary tale, give us a like and a comment. Share with others who might enjoy a good shiver down their spines. Stay up to date on our latest episodes. I'll see you again soon. hopefully in a less blood-soaked setting. Oddly, despite the filth, pirates enforced strict rationing. Food theft could mean death. Wasting water was punished viciously. Marooning, the cruel act of leaving a man stranded with a pistol and one bullet, was common for serious offenders. This wasn't indulgence, it was survival, enforced by fear. And chores never end. You scrape and scrub, patch sails in the wind, and bail out the bilge of ship's lowest, foulest chamber, where every liquid horror collects. Hours are spent knee-deep in filth, scooping muck that smells like despair itself. Yet strangely, amid this chaos, order exists. Captain's command, quartermaster's judge, and every crewman plays a part. Time slips away, days blending into nights. Stars counted like prison bars. Loneliness seeps into your bones. Some men talk to the sea. Some believe it listens. Historians debate, did pirates embrace freedom, or did they suffer imprisonment of a different sort? To the unwilling recruit, it feels like a cage, wide as the horizon. And worst of all, you begin to dream of boredom itself. A single quiet day ashore would feel like paradise. You awaken to the ocean's rhythm, the rocking, rolling, rising, falling. It's the cradle and the grave, the lullaby and dirge of countless men. Above, the sky is a bruised purple, heavy with rain and the threat of storms. You grip the railing, salt spray stinging your eyes, as the ship pitches and tosses like a leaf in an angry god's hand. The horizon shimmers, hiding the line between sea and sky, just as it hides the land that has become both home and prison. Days bleed into weeks. You count the hours by the stars, their cold light offering little comfort against the crushing darkness that gathers at the edges of your vision. Sleep offers a fragile truce between man and sea. But even in dreams, the rocking persists, a relentless reminder of your captivity. There is work to be done. First, the lookout's call, land ho, or maybe beware of rocks, and then the scramble to raise the anchor. You strain against the biting ropes, feeling more like an animal than a man. Then comes the endless scrubbing. With a short, stubby brush in one hand and a scuttle in the other, you attack the grime and rot that coats everything. Each morning, you wake with aching bones and a dull despair that's worse than the storms. For what is life on a ship without an anchor, without a home? Men go mad counting the stars, or they talk to the sea, pouring out tales that only the waves will hear. There is no solace in the crashing spray, no comfort in the vast, uncaring expanse that stretches from horizon to horizon. There is only the rolling, rising, falling, 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 rising, rocking. Some nights, when the moon is kind, you catch a glimpse of the constellations, the familiar patterns that once brought you comfort. Now they mock you with their steadfast permanence, their indifference to your plight. Even the compass spins wildly here, offering no guidance to lost souls like yourself. The captain, a figure of both fear and longing, holds the secrets of the tides, the winds, and the stars. He alone can navigate this watery labyrinth, charting a course through uncharted seas. To him, the ocean yields its secrets, whispering tales of distant lands and hidden coves. He speaks with the voices of the waves, understanding the language of the sea. But for you, there is no such solace. No map, no guide, no hope of rescue. You are trapped in a watery expanse that reflects the turmoil of your soul. The vastness of the ocean mirrors the emptiness within you. You search for a friendly face in the endless crowd of strangers. The salty temps of the sea air mingles with the musk of stale sweat and unwashed bodies. The cries of gulls mingle with the curses of the damned. And then the whispers start. Did pirates live by a code of freedom, or were they prisoners of the sea? The question echoes in your thoughts, unanswered, unanswerable. You are a pirate, a castaway, a man without a country, a soul without a home. The endless cycle of toil and misery, the crushing weight of despair, the gnawing hunger, the burning thirst, the mocking laughter of the damned. This is your new reality. You wake to the kind of shouting that means trouble, not drunken brawls or dice disputes, but low urgent voices rippling across the deck. Your head clears enough to catch snippets of conversation. Mutiny. The crew is mutinying. You scramble up on deck just as the first mate rounds a barrel, his face pale and drawn. Boone's got to go, he says, wiping sweat from his brow. The men are up in arms, not the best of omens, you think, as you follow him toward the source of the commotion. The crew has gathered at the bowsprit, their faces grim and their voices hushed. Boone, the brute of a captain, stands among them, his fists clenched tight, knuckles white as bone. He looks like a cornered animal, you think, and he has good enough with those fists to make the comparison more than just a figure of speech. He can turn a man inside out with those paws of his, send him to Davy Jones's locker quicker than you can say, "Shiver me timbers." Storms have been known to break on the deck of the ship, but never once had any of the men turned on him. The thought strikes you as odd. Boone's taken the ship through kraken-infested waters and plundered galleons without flinching. He even laughed in the face of the hangman when they boarded him on Tortuga. What was there not to like about the man? Apparently, a lot. As you push through the crowd, you hear the quartermaster, Grim Harrow, calling for order. His voice is a whip, cracking and biting. Once he has silence, he steps forward, his eyes glittering like a snake's. It's the same hard stare he uses when catching fellow pirates in the act of stealing. And that's what it is, you realize, staring at Boone. He's been skimming off the top, pocketing coins that should be going into the common chest, denying the men their share of the plunder. Pirates are notoriously bad with money, but they're even worse when they suspect they're being robbed. Drunken brawls erupt over lest loot is lifeblood, king's treasure, or privateer's prize. It all adds up to powder and shot. Grim's words cut through the murmuring crowd. We sailed from Tortuga under Captain Bloodworth, not this sorry excuse for a buccaneer. He pauses, letting the barb sink in. He betrayed us once, robbed us blind, left us without our heads on our shoulders. But the hangman's justice was too swift. We took him in despite the risk. We gave him our trust and our lives. And how did he repay us? By cheating us out of our hard-earned gains. The men roar their agreement, their faces twisted with rage and betrayal. The thought of marooning or leaving him to the sharks is too merciful. He deserves worse, something to remind him of his greed. And then you hear it again, that single word, treasure. The men think he stashed the treasure, hidden booty from their last run. Gold and jewels and maybe even the fabled ruby of the Spanish Main. They want their cut. The whole cut, and if he won't tell where it is, they'll force him to. A shiver runs down your spine. Violence is the rule on pirate ships, but there's always been a code, an understanding that some lines wouldn't be crossed. Loot was shared, prisoners were spared, and captains weren't killed. Until now, until Boone. The men swarm around him, their anger boiling over, and you know, standing there, watching, that this will end badly. There's nothing you can say to stop it. Nothing ever does on a pirate ship. The men drag the captain down into the hold, the space reeking of stale waste and bilge water. Desperation flares in Boone's eyes, but he won't beg. Pride and stubbornness twist his features into a snarl. The men haul him up on a barrel, their faces inches from his. "Tell us where it is, old man," one of them sneers. "Where you hid the treasure." Boone spits in his face. "Go to hell," he growls. The man slaps him, a stinging sound that echoes in the hold. More blows follow, until blood paints the darkness red. The fight is over before it begins. They beat him, they kill him, then toss his limp form into the hold. The men come up grinning, their anger spent. Now what? You ask yourself, knowing whatever happens next will be legend. The quartermaster steps forward, his eyes sharp and assessing. He addresses the crew, his voice ringing with authority. "We are agreed then." Cheers rise and fall, echoing across the waves. Grim waits until silence falls again. "Let it be known," he says, "that any man who speaks of what transpired here stays till the next port. If word gets back to Port Royal, we'll have the whole damned Navy on our backs." The men grumble, but they understand. Secrets keep safe. The new captain is chosen in the mess hall. Accusations fly, and so do fists. By nightfall, a new captain rules, his face bruised but his spirit high. The old one's gone, the treasure likely lost. The men sail on, singing songs of daring and deeds done under the new black flag, leaving behind the memory of Captain Boone and the ghost of his blood-red grin. Mutinies were common. A pirate captain ruled by consent, not inheritance. Lose the crew's confidence, and you lost command. Sometimes you lost your life. Unlike naval captains, pirates could be overthrown in an afternoon. It wasn't mercy, it was necessity. Discipline kept chaos from consuming them whole. Still, order is fragile. Below deck, life festers. There's no privacy, no escape. The smell is suffocating, a stew of sweat, mildew, rotting wood, and grog-soaked breath. You sleep in the same clothes you bled in. Your boots never dry. Rats scuttle freely, bold as crewmen, gnawing crumbs and sometimes toes. One man claims a rat bit his ear while he slept. He bit it back. No one doubts the story. The ship's toilet is nothing but a plank jutting over open sea, a rope to grip while waves claw at your bare skin. One wrong swell and you're swallowed whole. Some men hold it for days, doubling over in pain, fearing the plunge more than the cramps. Others boast of enduring the plank in storms, as though risking death for relief is some twisted badge of honor. Hygiene is a forgotten concept. Soap is rarer than gold. Fleas, lice, and worms infest clothes and bedding. When rain comes, men strip bare, laughing as they wash in cold torrents, only to stink again within hours. The stench clings into wood, skin, lungs, until you no longer notice. And that's the worst part. You become the ship. Filth becomes you. Below deck is a tinderbox of misery, waiting only for a spark to ignite the powder. How did they stop the ship from stinking up? Was it worth it? This is the story of what happens when men live on the plank too long. They say Captain Kidd's ship, the Adventure, smelled so vile it could curdle milk from 100 paces. Imagine the stench, then add a layer of chaos. Pirates are children in reverse, selfish, undisciplined, unhinged. Loot must be registered before redistribution. Fights break out daily. Challenges are issued over spilled grog and stolen supper. Blood is spilled freely, casually. Order is maintained with fists and cutlasses, with lashes and the ever-present threat of keel hauling. Loot is registered, but redistribution is another matter. The captain hoards his share, often more than his due, and issues it grudgingly. Crewmen live on half rations, gnawing always on hunger, their eyes on the captain's stores. Pirates are men without laws, but they invent their own codes, their own punishments. Loot taken from Spanish galleons rots on board. Unregistered plunder cannot be redistributed. A crewman caught pilfering is banished with a broken nose and a sound thrashing. Men are arrested for sleeping with another crewman's wife. They might walk the plank or take a turn in the brig, if there's enough rum to go around. For lesser offenses, there's extra work, and every man knows the time he'll draw for scrubbing heads or swabbing decks. A pirate captain is only as strong as his weakest man. How long can a man hold out before breaking ranks? Loyalty is bought with grog, food, and the promise of plunder, but it's also demanded. Every man must swear an oath of loyalty, and most do. But the temptation to plunder the horde, to seize the ship, to kill the captain and claim the prize for himself is always there. And there have been men who acted on it. Aboard Henry Morgan's ship, the Buccaneer, rumblings turned to mutiny as scurvy racks the crew. Morgan rules with a rod of iron, punishing the sick and desperate. But the men had endured a year of battle and Morgan's brutality. They'd had enough. In the end, it took less than an hour for the crew to vote him out of command. When he refused to leave, they tied him to the mast. Then they finished the job with pistols and cutlasses. Morgan's head was cut off and hung from the bowsprit as a warning to any other would-be tyrants. But even a good captain walks a tightrope, balancing the needs of his crew with the demands of the voyage. He bargains with men, cajoles them, threatens them, punishes them. He keeps order below deck because he has no choice, but he knows how close they all are to slipping into the abyss. How near the surface they are, how quickly the stink of decay can overwhelm them all. Discipline keeps the ship afloat, but it's the crew that makes it stink. Who smells worse, the filthy pirate or the civilized king? You decide in the comments. Now, see what actually did kill more pirates: disease, starvation, or fighting each other. Or watch Blackbeard's secret, the real reason he became a pirate. The human body has its own smells. Everyone's got a scent, something you pick up on, a musk that follows. Yours is lavender. Lavender, and you get used to your own smell. Even the stink of the open ocean eventually fades to background noise. But some things can break that spell, pull you from yourself by the scruff of your neck, and slam you against the face of your own musk, making you question if you really want to know what you smell like. One of those things is bath. The ocean does not take kindly to bathing. Salt and skin do not mix well with soap and water. But ports sometimes refused entry to pirate vessels, not just for their reputation, but their odor. Records tell of harbors demanding bribes just to let a crew disembark without driving locals away with the stench. Some scholars argue pirates bathed more often than Navy sailors, plunging into the sea or raiding supplies for soap. Others say filth was universal and pirates just wore theirs louder. Either way, the truth sticks to you, rancid and permanent. Your body itches raw. Scratching until you bleed becomes routine. Wounds fester, clothes rot on your back. The doctor does little but wave vinegar rags and mutter curses. The crew laughs about it. You stop laughing. You pray for soap, for a clean shirt, for 10 minutes in hot water. You dream of it. One man finds a bar hidden in stolen cargo, holds it aloft like treasure and eats it, thinking it cheese. No one blinks. At night, when groans echo and coughs rattle, when the man beside you mutters, "Please don't rot yet," in his sleep, you realize the truth. Gold means nothing compared to a bath, and you know you'll never have one. When you enlist, leaving home and hearth behind, you trade an old life for an exciting new one. Freedom for fortune. It's a simple exchange for most, a chance at riches and adventure. But not for you. For you, it's a matter of life and death. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and the noose around your neck. Leave now and live as a wanted criminal, or stay and die as an honest man. So you sign on, hoping fortune will cover your tracks. The odds are against you anyway. Most pirates die young, by violence or hanging. If you make it home, years at sea change you. Reputation precedes you. No harbor welcomes you. You can't spin your doubloons, so you sail on, a ghost in your own hometown, a living dead man walking. You're free, but all roads lead to ruin. Outlaw life makes life shorter, rougher, messier, dirtier, hungrier, thirstier, colder, hotter, harder, harder. In every way except one. You were born free, but as a cabin boy, you're learning the meaning of that word. What it means to be unrestrained, unfettered, unbridled. It means mess, dirt under fingernails and between toes, lice in hair, filth on skin. It means hunger and thirst. You learn the taste of hardtack and salt meat, how to catch fish and cook it on deck. You know what rain tastes like, too, and how to snatch cups before they fall from a swaying hand. When you finally touch land, you dive into fresh water, grab handfuls, and drink until you choke. Then you dig in sand until your fingers bleed. Only then do you feel alive. You've seen wonders and horrors. Cracking off the coast of Sumatra, jewels and gold in Mogadishu, men ripped apart by sharks, islands made of diamonds. You've been to heaven and hell, and everything in between. Heard tales of mermaids singing and buried treasure. Watched men freeze and burn and drown. Fought storms and starved and prayed for rain. Seen the faces of greed and death, and all the while sailed on. The world spins, the sea pulls, the winds drive, and you keep moving. That is, if you can keep moving. Storms come and go, but the ocean stays. Steady swell and lonely sigh. Always there, always rocking, rolling, rising, falling. There's comfort in it, a constant amid change. But there's danger, too. The sea gives, and the sea takes away. A rogue wave can rise, toss your ship like a toy, and leave you gasping for breath on a spit of sand. That's what you fear, the inevitable meeting, the one you cannot escape. You may rule the waves, plunder their riches, and mock the laws of man, But the ocean cares for none of that. When she turns, you're gone. You're food for fish, fertilizer for coral. And when it happens, it's sudden and brutal. One minute you're laughing, shouting, dancing, singing on the deck. The next, you're clinging to driftwood, praying for rescue, bracing for impact. And when you surface, choking on salt and spray, you know no one is coming. This is the end. The sea is lonely and pitiless. She gives generously and punishes severely. Treasured reefs turn to jagged teeth. Calm waters hide sucking pits. Gentle slopes turn to crumbling cliffs. You navigate by instinct and luck, wrestling with invisible forces that threaten to rip your ship to shreds. Gold is pretty. You remember when you first saw it, glittering in the sun, glinting in the shadows, heavy in the hands. It was beautiful, like a jewel, but sharper, meaner, and you wanted it. You remember when you earned your first piece, how proud you were, how heavy the coin felt in your purse. You bought sweets and flowers and stories with it. You lavished it on others, kept it close. It was yours. It smelled like adventure and promise. It bought freedom and a future. Back then, you believed in gold. Now you carry it around, a weight on your shoulders. You count it, sort it, stack it, roll it. It doesn't buy much anymore. It doesn't make you happy. All it does is remind you of what you left behind. Stories. Every port brings new stories, new songs, new dances. The world is full of music and movement, poetry and pictures. There's something magical about hearing a story, watching another life unfold, seeing familiar places through someone else's eyes. Stories connect people, bring them together, make them one until the final line is spoken. Then they part ways, taking the lessons, the fears, the dreams with them. That's why you listen. You need to know where you've been and where you might end up. You soak up the details, tuck them away. They might save your life or lose you a fortune. So you sit, you sip, you smile, you listen. A pirate's life is a hard one, but who among us hasn't yearned for freedom, wealth, and adventure? Who hasn't dreamed of escaping the mundane for a life of excitement and intrigue? Well, if you're feeling adventurous, why not try your hand at being a pirate? With this action-packed card game, you and your friends can plunder treasure, battle rival crews, and navigate the high seas, all without getting caught in the act. Plunder, set sail, and outwit your opponents in this swashbuckling adventure. You can even dress up as your favorite pirate characters with our collectible figure set. Don't miss out on this treasure trove of fun. Set sail today, one moment seared into your memory. The rest is a blur. You remember the faces of your enemies, the gray-haired captain, his wild eyes, and the way he spat defiance as he fired his pistol at your quartermaster. You see the flash of the muzzle, hear the roar of the blast, and in slow motion, you watch the old man drop, a hole clean through his skull. No drama, no last words, just silence swallowed by chaos. That's how leaders die at sea. The rest of the battle is a blur. You fire back, emptying half a dozen pistols into the old man's face. His accomplices close in, firing blindly. 2 more fall, then 3. Surrender comes, not with the dignity of a well-coordinated squad, but with the stench of urine and the clatter of weapons dropped in terror as men run for the hills or slump to their knees. Some weep, others sit stunned amid the wreckage of their dreams. Your own crew cheers, but without joy. The fight is done, but there is no celebration. Victory tastes of smoke and copper and bile. The aftermath is always the worst. Crates of sugar and rum and tobacco, maybe gold if luck smiles. But the euphoria of the chase is gone. The air is thick with the stench of death and decay. The wounded groan. The dead are heaved into the sea. There is no time for mourning. You step over corpses without a thought. Prisoners brought before you. Some beg for mercy. Others beg for a chance to fight for their freedom. You have no prisoners to take care of. You leave them to the others, herding them toward the longboat. Those deemed too valuable to kill are given the choice of joining your crew or drifting in a lifeboat condemned to waves. Some beg for a place aboard. Others are left behind, their fate already written in the sea foam. There are other spoils besides material goods. A king's commission, a noble title, even the favor of a beautiful woman. But none of that matters to you. What matters is what you took from the fight, the faces of friends and foes alike. Perhaps you find a new crewmate, someone who survives the battle with nothing but the clothes on his back and a prayer in his heart. He'll fight for food, for water, for a chance to earn his freedom. Maybe he reminds you of yourself, young and desperate. Or maybe he reminds you of your enemies, broken and defeated. Sometimes the line between victim and executioner is blurred beyond recognition. Pirates preferred intimidation over battle. When possible, Blackbeard tied lit fuses into his beard to look like a demon rising from hell. Sometimes fear saved powder, but when fear failed, brutality replaced it. Historians argue over how common full battles were. Some claim they were rare, most prizes taken without a shot fired. Others insist they happened often, with stubborn merchants and misread signals. But the truth is of little import. You've seen enough. One battle scars a man forever. That night, you sit silent on the deck, blood crusted on your shirt, ears ringing with the screams of battle. Beside you, Elias, your closest thing to a friend, bandages a deep gash on his arm. Neither of you speak. Around you, the ship groans, settling back into the rhythm of the sea after the storm. The sky is clear, the moon, a cold eye, staring down at the warm, dark water. The sea, calm and indifferent, stretches out as though it hadn't swallowed men just hours before. Your hands shake. You don't feel heroic, only hollow. As the days pass, so does the fancy rum, finer cuts of meat, good cheer. Soon the food is plain, the work harder, tempers shorter. Fights break out over cards and grog. Whispers drift through the rigging of mutiny, men plotting to seize the ship and turn it toward the nearest port. But the sea is a cruel mistress. Storms rise suddenly, winds shift without warning. She offers little respite, provides no quarter. So men die, first of hunger, then of thirst, their bones picked clean by the scavenging gulls. And all the while, she keeps them moving. When the Black Pearl was becalmed, the men crowded the quarterdeck, some shouting for land, others praying for rain. They were a knot of humanity, tense and silent, faces drawn and grim, bodies slick with sweat. It seemed the very heat pressed down on them, sapping strength, stealing hope. Then, as if sensing their despair, the sea breathed. A breeze stirred the rigging, whispering secrets only the old salts could understand. Then it shifted, grew, tearing at the sails, whipping the men's hair and clothes. Rain lashed down, stinging their hot skin, carrying the scent of faraway showers and lush, green landscapes. But there was no joy in the deluge. Each drop drummed a tattoo of misery on the deck, mirroring the thudding dread in their hearts. For on this ship, as on every ship at sea, fortune's wheel turned with the whims of the wind, and today it spun against them. They gripped the shrouds, hanging on as the ship bucked and rose. In the maelstrom, the cries of seagulls were lost, swallowed by the tempest's roar. The world was a tunnel of gray sky and churning water, and the men were tossed within its grip, at the mercy of the relentless sea. You are a sailor pressed into service on a pirate ship. Your life expectancy is less than 2 years. Your job, do whatever the hell the captain tells you. That might mean swabbing decks, running errands, firing a cannon, or walking the plank. At least some jobs will be worse than others, depending on the crew you end up with. If you're on Blackbeard's ship, you'll likely die a violent death, as he is apparently the type of guy who kills people just for fun. On the other hand, if you end up sailing under Bartholomew Roberts, you'll probably die a little slower, shamed and tortured by his utter lack of empathy. While historical sources can't tell us much about what most pirate ships were like, we can get an idea of daily life by looking at how these two legendary crews operated. Let's get into it. The best way to summarize life on a pirate ship is that it sucked. Not all of the time, mind you, but pretty much all of the time. The average pirate vessel wasn't very big, usually around 60 feet long and 17 feet wide, holding between 200 and 300 tons of cargo. They were fast, maneuverable ships built to carry precious metals and other high-value items. So while they weren't as steady on the waves as larger merchant vessels, they could easily outpace any naval ships sent to capture them. The downside of these ships being so small is that they were susceptible to rough waters, and in the golden age of piracy, the Caribbean and east coast of North America saw some nasty hurricanes. Pirates had few supplies, few comforts, and few choices when the winds picked up. You sail into the teeth of the storm, or you don't. Let's say you chose poorly. One man slips. His scream is brief, cut off as the sea swallows him. Another is dragged below by the surgeon, mangled after falling from the rigging. You don't see him again. The captain lashes himself to the wheel. Men cry prayers into the storm, voices drowned by thunder. There was little room on these ships for anyone to hide during a storm. Everyone had to pitch in to keep the ship afloat. Captains didn't mind risking themselves because they had to be seen doing their duty. But normally, they'd have little choice but to ride out the storm. That meant lashing themselves to the helm, battling the waves and wind until the worst passed. Most times the crew would do the same, anchoring themselves to masts and yards, working together to keep the ship upright. Sometimes a crew member would let go, pulled underwater, or blown overboard by a rogue wave. In the rare case that the ship managed to survive the storm, the crew would pull the unfortunate sailor back on board, battered and exhausted, but alive. More often than not, though, the sea takes what it demands, and no amount of praying will change that. If you're one of the lucky ones, you'll die quick. If you're unlucky, you'll die slow, maybe from disease or starvation. After a particularly fierce storm, survivors struggle to their feet, soaked and shivering, bodies trembling from exhaustion. You survived, but survival earns no thanks, no medals, no songs, just another day's labor in this cursed existence. You collapse on the deck, too weak to move, too drained to care. The dead are wrapped in canvas, slid into the water. Without ceremony, the sea takes what it demands. Historians note, more pirate ships were lost to storms than to battle. Hurricanes in the Caribbean, rogue waves, sudden squalls. They devoured ships with no warning. Pirate vessels, lighter and faster, were nimble but fragile. Even skilled sailors couldn't always outwit nature's wrath. Some pirates claimed storms weren't weather at all, but punishments, signs of betrayal, cowardice, or mockery of the sea itself. Superstition or not, when the ocean roars, belief feels real. When the sun returns, you're up before sunrise, tending to tasks undone by the storm. You don't really know if you slept. You're not sure you want to. The hammock next to yours is empty. The man who shared jokes and grog over the previous week is gone. Drowned, swept away by a wave, tossed into the sea with nothing but mocking laughter. Maybe he died happy, screaming defiance at the sky. Or maybe he cried out for his mother, for God, for a wife he'd never see again. You don't want to ask. You don't want the answer. Some jobs are easy, but most aren't. Life on a pirate ship wasn't as exciting as the stories said. There were no great battles with galleons full of treasure, no bold raids on distant shores, no escape from life on the ocean waves. Those tales were for landlubbers with romantic notions and fat wallets. What you lived through were the humdrum chores of shipboard life. You catch fish and cook them, standing over the galley for hours. The oily smell of salt fish sticks to you for days. You scrub the blood and grime from the deck until your hands are raw. You mend sails and repair equipment, hoping the carpenter doesn't catch you botching the job. You climb the rigging, cursing the lack of safety harnesses. You stand watch with only the moon and stars for company, praying the lookout spots trouble early enough. You eat tasteless porridge or biscuits that taste like ashes. Fresh fruit is a luxury you rarely enjoy, except for oranges. You eat those like candy, vitamin C being worth more than gold on the open seas. And then there are the people, fellow sailors with calloused hands, faces weathered by wind and sun, accents from lands you've never heard of. The air is thick with the stench of stale urine, sweat, and unwashed bodies. Laughter echoes across the ship at night, along with curses and shouts. Sometimes the music's good, sometimes it's awful. The worst part is the silence. It presses down on you when the men are busy, working, fighting, or gambling, when every sound is swallowed by the vastness of the sea. That's when the stories come out, tales of daring raids and treasures won, of narrow escapes and bloody revenge. You listen, pretending you were there, fighting alongside the greatest heroes the sea has ever known. Then someone coughs, breaking the quiet spell. You remember where you are. Back to work. Every now and then, a ship appears on the horizon. Sometimes it's friend, sometimes foe. A friendly ship brings news from the outside world, rumors of war, rumors of peace, rumors of treasure. A warship brings cannons and swords, an invitation to fight or walk the plank. When an enemy ship appears, there's a frenzy of activity. You haul up the anchor, trim the sails, grab your cutlass and pistol, scramble up the rigging. Lives hang in the balance as the chase begins. The other ship looms, an angry god bearing down on you. You fire, reload, hope to hit your target. The smell of gunpowder lingers for days. Victory means plunder. You strip the ship, taking everything you can carry, leaving only what you don't need. Defeat means prison, a noose, or the bottom of the sea. That's what life on a pirate ship is like. Now you're free. Well, sort of. You see, life on a pirate ship isn't really a choice. Once you're aboard, you're trapped. The world is the ocean and the ship is your floating hell. There's no escape until you're hauled up onto land, either as a corpse or a living, breathing prisoner. You'll live on a diet of saltfish, hardtack, and misery until the day you die. Or perhaps you'll jump into the sea before the executioner jumps you. Perhaps you'll be thrown into the sea as punishment. In fact, you probably will be. The captain hates your guts, and you forgot to mention to him that his daughter is the reason you took up piracy. Better hope you remembered to mention that to her too, because otherwise she's gonna be mighty pissed when she sees you getting the rope. Did I mention drowning is painful? Historians say most pirates died young, forgotten, their lives snuffed out by violence or neglect. If you're a coward or a fool, you'll die quickly. If you're clever, you may survive long enough to find a way ashore. But most pirate crews believed you earned your place on the ship by being neither. So what if you made it ashore? You probably brought some diseases with you. Oh boy, this sucks. I need some sick leave. This is the host with Life Noggin. Don't forget to keep on thinking. The sun beat down mercilessly upon the bustling port city of Nassau. Merchants hawked their wares, sailors lounged in taverns, and the governor sipped his wine in his air-conditioned office, all seemingly oblivious to the gathering storm. That storm had come from the east, driven by winds that carried the salty temps of the sea and the metallic reek of blood. Now it stood just offshore, a ship like a hungry beast ready to devour its prey. On board the ship, Captain Charles Vane watched the shore with cold eyes. In his hands, he gripped the tiller as if it were the life raft that would carry him to his next prize. Vane was a man carved by the sea, weathered, hard, his face as lined and furrowed as an old man's reputation preceded him like a stench, a tale of ruthlessness and unbridled ambition. But his gaze, sharp and unwavering, spoke of a man haunted by demons only the open sea could soothe. As the vessel edged closer to Nassau, Vane barked orders to his crew, his voice rough as grinding stones. A tense silence followed his commands, broken only by the rhythmic slap of waves against the hull. Vane anchored his ship a good distance from the shore, leaving behind the familiar comfort of the sea and stepping into the uncharted waters of land-loving. Nassau bustled with life, its inhabitants going about their daily routines, unaware of the predator that stalked among them. In the crowded marketplace, Vane found what he sought, riches on display, ripe for the taking. He watched, calculating, finding amusement in the obliviousness of the townspeople. When he made his move, it was sudden, violent, leaving the people of Nassau reeling in the wake of his departure. It was a bold stroke, audacious and risky, but typical of Vane's style. He had struck at the heart of the city, sending shockwaves that would echo through the colonial streets. As news of the attack spread, panic seized Nassau. People poured into the streets, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear and anger. The governor, startled from his reverie, strode onto the balcony of his office, his face thunderous with rage. The attack was not merely an insult, it was a challenge, a declaration of war. And so began a chase, a cat-and-mouse game between Vane and the colonial authorities. The pirate captain danced through the island's terrain, eluding his pursuers, striking at vulnerable targets whenever he pleased. The governor, determined to restore order and save face, threw every resource into the hunt, rallying the militia, issuing warrants and offering rewards. But with each passing day, Vane's mocking laughter echoed louder, his taunts more audacious. Yet as the game wore on, cracks appeared. The colonial forces, ill-equipped and undisciplined, proved easy prey for Vane's seasoned crew. Supplies dwindled, tempers flared, and doubts crept in. The ensuing battle was fierce, a dance of death under the blazing sun. Swords clashed, pistols roared, the air filled with the cries of the wounded and the dying. But as the smoke cleared, it became evident that victory was a hollow triumph. The town lay in ruins, its people demoralized, their trust in the authorities shattered. Vane had struck a decisive blow, one that transcended mere material losses. He had undermined the very foundations of order, exposing the fragility of the colonial way of life. In the aftermath, Vane disappeared into the labyrinth of Nassau's ravaged streets, leaving behind a legacy of fear and respect. He vanished like a ghost, melting into the crowd, taking with him the secrets of his survival. But his impact on Nassau was profound and enduring. The attack had been a turning point, exposing the limitations of colonial power and the depths of a pirate's cunning. As darkness fell over Nassau, casting long shadows across the ruined landscape, the true cost of the attack became evident. The town was in ruins, its people scattered, their spirit broken. Vane's audacity had paid off, securing his place in infamy and leaving an indelible scar on the colonial project. For Charles Vane, the relentless pirate, the attack on Nassau was more than a raid. It was a statement, a resounding declaration that echoed across the Caribbean, challenging the authority of the crown and affirming the indomitable spirit of piracy. The resounding attack on Nassau solidified Vane's notorious reputation, establishing him as a formidable force to be reckoned with. His name became synonymous with audacious rebellion, forever etching his legacy in the annals of history as one of the most daring pirates of his time. However, the story doesn't end here. There's more to know about the man behind the legend. In the chronicles of piracy, few names resonate with the chilling effect of Charles Vane. Born in obscurity, his early life shrouded in mystery, Vane's origins remain a puzzle with missing pieces. What is known is that he was a product of his times, a period when the line between right and wrong blurred under the shadow of colonialism. His journey began in England, where he was born in 1680. The son of a poor family living in the heart of London. From a young age, he exhibited a rebellious streak, a trait that would become his trademark. His formal education was sparse, but he was a keen observer, learning the ways of the world through its vivid tapestry. By his late teens, he had developed an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond the familiar streets of London, a world beckoning with tales of adventure and opportunity. The sea held a particular allure, promising a life free from the constraints of society, where fortunes were made and broken in the blink of an eye. At 17, driven by a potent mix of youthful idealism and desperation, he signed on to a merchant vessel bound for the New World. The voyage was a perilous affair, testing the limits of human endurance and exposing Vane to the harsh realities of life at sea. Storms tossed the ship like a toy, threatening to shatter their dreams. Sickness claimed many, and the constant struggle against the elements forged a sense of camaraderie among the crew. Upon reaching the New World, Vane found himself in the vibrant port city of Nassau, a place teeming with life, where fortunes were made and lost in equal measure. Here, the allure of piracy first whispered to him, promising a life beyond the confines of honest labor. He observed the pirates, men who lived by their own rules, who challenged the authority of the crown, and who reveled in the thrill of the chase. The turning point came when Vane witnessed the excesses of colonial rule firsthand, seeing how the powerful exploited the weak, how justice was often bought and sold. This experience ignited a fire within him, a determination to challenge the status quo and carve his own path in life. And so it was that Charles Vane, a young man molded by hardship and disillusioned by injustice, took the perilous step that would change his life forever. He abandoned his merchant life and joined the ranks of the pirates, aligning himself with the notorious Captain Henry Every. Under Every's mentorship, Vane honed his skills, learning the intricacies of navigation, swordplay, and the art of deception, laying the foundation for the legendary pirate captain he would become. As the years passed, Vane's reputation grew. He became known for his strategic brilliance, his ruthlessness, and his audacious spirit. His victories against colonial shipping were celebrated in taverns and around campfires, making him a folk hero to some and a symbol of rebellion against the established order. With his star on the rise, Vane set his sights on greater challenges, culminating in his audacious attack on Nassau, which established him as a force to be reckoned with. However, his journey was far from over. In the annals of piracy, Vane's story stands out not only for his daring exploits, but also for the enigma that surrounded him. Despite his legendary status, much of his life remains shrouded in mystery, making him a fascinating subject of historical intrigue. If you find yourself captivated by this tale of audacious rebellion and are eager to explore more gripping narratives of the legendary pirate, stay tuned for more updates. Your continued support fuels our journey, and we can't wait to share more thrilling stories with you. In history, executions were spectacles. Gallows rose high, ropes swaying in the wind, bodies left hanging as warnings. Some pirates sang to their deaths, some prayed, some spat at the crowd. All ended the same with a snap of rope and silence. The day of execution dawns gray and heavy. You wake in a stone cell, chains biting your ankles. Outside, the city stirs with excitement. For them, this isn't tragedy at theater. Execution Day is a festival, a chance to jeer at villains and cheer for justice. Guards drag you out, iron shackles clattering, breath clouding in the morning chill. The streets are packed, faces leering, children hoisted onto shoulders for a better view. Some hurl rotten fruit, others spit. You march through the noise, a procession of the damned. Every step feels heavier, the rope waiting just ahead. The gallows rise stark against the sky-wooden beams, dangling nooses swaying like grim invitations. The crowd surges with anticipation, murmurs rising. Pirates are paraded up, one by one. Some shout curses, some weep, some pray loudly to heaven. One man laughs, daring the crowd to remember him. You keep your silence. When your turn comes, the world narrows. The noose is rough against your neck, the hemp scratchy and cold. The executioner mutters. The judge reads your crimes, but you barely hear. You look at the sea glinting in the distance, remembering storms and blood, the smell of salt and rot, Ilias's quiet voice in the dark. It all feels closer than the mob screaming for your death. The trap creaks beneath your feet. You whisper words no one hears, not for forgiveness, not for courage, but a plea. Let it be quick. The floor drops. The rope snaps tight. Darkness floods. Before the sun sets tonight, two figures will dance beneath the gibbet, a macabre ballet of survival. Is that you? Perhaps it is. Perhaps it isn't. Let's call you the lucky one. You lived when others died, survived by the skin of your teeth. They tell stories still, those who watched, how you writhed and gasped, how the crowd roared and the executioner cursed. But you lived. How did you escape death's embrace? Was it the quick drop or the hangman's mercy? Or maybe, just maybe, the story goes, you kicked your foot striking the hangman's son, making him fumble, the rope slipping from his grasp. They say the boy cried out, an instant of distraction that broke the rhythm of the drop. And when they felt for a pulse, you were alive. Still, they don't know that, do they? All they see is a miracle, a cheat death story that warms the cockles of their hearts and makes their children clap. What they don't know is that the second figure dancing beneath the gibbet was indeed yourself, stepping into the shoes of your doppelganger, taking your fate into your own hands. When the noose tightened around your neck, you knew there was no hope of rescue. So you did something desperate, something terrible. You killed the hangman's son. In that moment of chaos, you slipped out of the noose, smashing the boy's skull with the butt of your gun. Now, with the gallows standing stark against the twilight sky, you dance beneath them, not in celebration, but in mourning for the life you took. The rope is a phantom limb, the hempen noose, digging into your neck where it will never touch again. And in the eyes of the crowd, you live on, a spectacle of horror and awe, forever tarnished by the darkness in your soul. Now, do you see? Do you understand the life of a pirate? Do you comprehend the brutal tapestry woven of salt spray and regret, of the sea's indifference and the storm's grim symphony? Can you hear the creak of the ship's bones? Feel the slap of waves against the hull? Smell the stench of bilge water and decaying wood? Can you taste the brine on your lips, the coarseness of stale bread, the faint tempts of lime juice struggling to mask the rot in your teeth? Imagine, if you can, the ceaseless rocking, the horizon blurring into infinity, the sky merging seamlessly into the turbulent ocean around you. This is no adventure, no romantic escapade. This is endurance, sheer willpower, resisting the sea's relentless embrace. For when the ocean demands tribute, there is no escape. You have stared into the abyss of hunger, felt the gnawing emptiness in your belly, echoing the hollowness in your soul. You've known the despair of thirst, the burning torment that parches your throat and dims your eyes. Sleep has been a luxury you could ill afford, snatched in stolen moments. When fatigue overwhelms the body and the mind momentarily forgets, the ever-present threat of the next wave crashing over you, pulling you down into its icy depths. Friendship here is a fleeting visitor. Trust is a fragile bird that flutters briefly before taking flight, soaring high above the reach of pirates, beyond the grasp of camaraderie. Betrayal has many faces, but the most chilling is the one that wears the guise of trust, of loyalty. The sea does not care for companionship, for solace, or for love. It drowns out every sound but its own, and in the vast expanse of its indifference, men are lost. You are part of this grand design, an intricate dance of suffering and struggle, a player in the theater of the absurd. Your very existence is measured by the rising and falling of the sun, by the heaving of the waves. You are as expendable as the canvas on a ship's sail, as replaceable as the planks that make up the deck beneath your feet. You are but a cog in the machinery of the ship, a spoke in the wheel of fortune. Your life is a wager on the whims of the wind, the caprice of the waves. You are adrift in a sea of misery, surrounded by men who mirror your torment, each etched with the deep lines of sorrow, each haunted by the ghosts of past regrets. You are linked to them by invisible threads of shared suffering, of hopes dashed against the rocks of reality. They are your companions on this watery journey, bound together by circumstances beyond their control, by destinies woven into the fabric of the sea. You are an assembly of lost souls seeking haven, each carrying the weight of a story, a narrative of pain and longing, of dreams shattered and futures uncertain. The sea offers no quarter. It does not differentiate between the innocent and the guilty. It devours all, offering no respite, no mercy. It is a relentless force of nature that crushes hope as easily as it does ambition. Storms arise unannounced, whipping the sea into a frenzy, turning the gentle waves into towering monsters that threaten to swallow the very ship that cradles you. Lightning dances across the darkened sky, a macabre ballet that illuminates the terror etched on the faces around you. Thunder roars, shaking the foundations of your being, reminding you of the insignificance of your existence in the face of nature's untamed wrath. Rain lashes down, a torrential deluge that transforms the ship into a raging torrent, blurring the line between sea and sky, leaving you drenched in misery, soaked in despair. The wind, once a gentle caress, now screams in your ears, A banshee's wail that threatens to tear the sails to shreds, threatening to rip the very ship apart. Waves crash against the hull, a relentless assault that seems determined to breach the vessel's defenses, determined to drag you down into the churning abyss below. Here, amidst the tempest's fury, the salty sting of the seawater mixes with the bitter taste of fear. In the darkest depths of the night, when the stars are obscured by clouds and the moon hides its face in shame, you are most vulnerable. The absence of light brings with it a chilling loneliness, a haunting silence that amplifies every creak of the ship, every groan of the timbers. In the suffocating darkness, shadows twist and turn, taking on monstrous shapes that dance at the edge of your vision. Fear, like a living thing, begins to slither into your heart, coiling itself around your soul, squeezing the hope out of your being. You yearn for the comforting embrace of daylight, for the familiar solace of the morning sun. But the night is relentless, stretching endlessly, mocking your despair. And as you wrestle with the suffocating darkness, you realize that the true horror of the night is not the things that may lurk in its shadowy depths, but the haunting realization of your own fragility, of your utter helplessness in the face of the unforgiving sea. You find solace in the stories spun by weathered sailors, tales of faraway lands and mythical creatures, stories of bravery and adventure designed to distract, to divert the minds of the tormented souls aboard. These narratives become lifelines tossed into the sea of despair, helping to keep the heads of the afflicted clear, their spirits from completely breaking. Legends of daring escapades and impossible feats echo across the ship, momentarily lifting the veil of misery that hangs heavy in the air. Each tale is a raft adrift on the stormy seas of reality, carrying precious cargo, hope, courage, and the promise of a better tomorrow. And yet, beneath the surface of these stories, there lurks a darker truth, a sobering reminder of the harsh realities that await. Pirates don't write history, kings and queens do. They record it bluntly in their chronicles. Hundreds of pirates swung from nooses across Europe and the colonies, their bodies left hanging for days, sometimes tarred to preserve them. Grim warnings to others. Few escaped this fate. Even legends like Blackbeard fell in battle, their heads displayed as trophies. Piracy was not romance, only a road paved to the gallows, and yet stories survived. Songs of freedom, of wild seas and brotherhood, of men who chose liberty over law. The truth is harder. Misery, disease, hunger, fear. Most pirates were not heroes, but desperate men trapped by circumstance or greed. Their lives were short, brutal, and ended in rope or storm. But still, something lingers. Perhaps it's the allure of defiance, the refusal to bow, the dream of freedom in a world chained by kings and empires. Perhaps it's the sea itself, vast, untamed, promising escape even as it kills. Whatever it is, the myth remains, whispering louder than the truth. And tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you know the truth of it. The pirate's life was no treasure, only torment. Yet the ocean still calls, eternal, indifferent. Its voice rolls with the waves, tempting, warning, never silenced. The sea takes what it wants,